I've been trying to think of a good way to start this video for a while, and I think there's really only one way to do it. I like rhythm games. I like an unhealthy endurance testing carpal tunnel producing rhythm game as much as I like coffee in the morning. I've spent plenty of time playing Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and Clone Hero over the years. I'm not great, but I'm adept enough to hold my own. I've been working on a different video lately, but I came across a series of games that caught my attention. The foundation layer of guitar games in a sense. So today, we're going to take a look at Guitar Freaks on PlayStation 2. If you aren't from the United States and are instead from a country where Guitadora is more popular, then I apologize in advance for my ignorance and lack of skill. Let's get started. Guitadora, or Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania, is a series of rhythm games developed by Konami's in-house music game group Bemani. You might recognize their name from some other notable Konami rhythm games like DDR, Beatmania, and Karaoke Revolution. The original Guitar Freaks, released in Japanese arcades in February 1999 and then later that year ported to the PS1, is the first guitar-based video game to use a peripheral that simulates playing a real guitar. It actually served as the direct inspiration for Red Octane's famous guitar controllers. But the Guitar Freaks peripherals look a hell of a lot different than the Red Octane guitars. Both the arcade design and the later PS1 controller had this extremely bulbous look to them. The PS1 guitar is much closer to the Red Octane guitars, but it still has obvious differences, like not having a 4th and 5th fret button, not having a whammy bar, and not looking very good. I don't have one of these PS1 guitars, but depending on how I feel after this video, I may go looking for one. I'm actually really curious about Guitar Freaks and the odd PS1 expansion pack. It apparently requires the player to boot the original Guitar Freaks disc first, followed by removing that and replacing it with the append second mix disc. This is a super unique way to handle expansion packs on earlier consoles, and I'm kind of interested in seeing how it works up close. That's something for a later date. First of the set we're going to look at is Guitar Freaks 3rd Mix. Before I even talk about the specifics for this title, I need to get something out of the way. Every single one of these games is identical in gameplay. It's similar to Guitar Hero in theory. You hold down one of the fret buttons, strum when the notes touch the hitbox, and occasionally tilt the guitar for a quick score boost. One of the biggest differences, like I said, is that there are only 3 fret buttons. If you've ever played Guitar Hero on easy, then you're familiar with the idea, but don't be misled by the 3-button scheme. This is a far cry from being easy. The notes are incredibly small, and the hitboxes are equally small to match them. The game does a lot of things you might be familiar with, like double and triple notes, long tremolos, zigzags, and other recognizable music patterns. A couple of things that you might be expecting aren't there at all, though. There aren't any held notes, and you can't do strumless hammer-ons and pull-offs. That can be a drag in some faster moments, but it does give the game a more genuine challenge, and it never feels impossible. You might have noticed watching this gameplay that the highway is scrolling upward. The first time I saw this as a Guitar Hero player, I thought it would be the most difficult part to adjust to. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely difficult, but it isn't as bad as it might look. Once you fight through the minor dizziness, it starts to feel pretty good. One universal quality of life feature is the ability to change the speed of the notes. It's there if you need it, but for me personally, the default speed was fine, so I kept it that way for most of it. If I haven't said it already, this game feels really good to play. A game like this can't really suffer from aging beyond the music. Since I'm emulating this, I'm playing in gamepad mode with my Guitar Hero 2 Explorer mapped to the gamepad buttons. Unlike Guitar Hero, gamepad mode in Guitar Freaks still requires the player to strum notes. In the later entries, you can completely remap the controls in the settings menu to make things more convenient. In some of them, like 3rd Mix, 4th Mix, and V, you're stuck with one of 3 control schemes, and none of them feel good. For the rest of them, I mapped picking to up and down on the D-pad, and mapped up and down on the D-pad to my strum bar. The first 3 buttons are the active fret buttons, each mapped to L2, L1, and R1 respectively. The blue fret is triangle, and the orange fret is circle. The reason I mapped picking to up and down on the D-pad is so that I can also make use of the strum bar to navigate the song wheel comfortably. If you're playing on PCSX2, do what I did. The Guitar Controller plugin doesn't work with these games, so you pretty much have to map your guitar in gamepad mode if you want to use it. When I started this whole thing, first I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to use my guitar controller. Once that problem was solved, I was concerned that the input delay might be horrendous. Honestly, not that bad. I know from playing Clone Hero that my average input delay is anywhere from 27 to 35 milliseconds, including the monitor delay. In a game like this where I can only work as fast as my reaction speed and hardware, I have to hope that there isn't any added delay from the controller setup or the emulation. Luckily, the game works fine. In this case, I also had to hope that PCSX2 could actually run these games because literally nobody plays them on this side of the world. If you're from Japan and you actually have or do play them, then tell me about it. Tell me about your first experience with Guitar Freaks in the comments. I'd love to even know about it. Gitadora as a whole has had extremely limited exposure here in the United States. In most cases like this, I would be like, I don't understand restricting your product to a single market, but in this case, I kind of get it. It's hella fun, but the soundtrack is really designated at Japan, and if we take a look at Guitar Hero and Rock Band, those games sold well here in the States on their set lists. That's the big bulk of the game. The music is recognizable. People spread the word around that the songs sound good and are fun to play. So you can't really make the same impact over here with stuff that the crowds are unfamiliar with. It's an ordeal to try to market all of these artists people have never heard of before to a brand new crowd of people overseas in a different culture, in a different place. About the set list for this game specifically, Guitar Freak's third mix doesn't have my favorite set list of the bunch, mostly because it's covered in less than stellar American rock music, but that's mostly passable for the really good Japanese stuff that's mixed in throughout it. My favorite part of this whole experience is hearing music that I've never heard before, and there's definitely a lot of that. But this game has a lot of really dumb stuff too, like Smoke on the Water. It isn't always good, and some of the tracks have really weird time signatures, but the majority of them are excellent, and the charts for them are equally excellent. It's worth mentioning that this game is incredibly small in size, less than a gigabyte. Not because the set list is small, because it's pretty decent, rather because the audio is extremely compressed. It also just doesn't look very good. Seriously, the center screen artwork looks like it was compressed to fit on a PS1, and it kind of was. This game and the next one were both designed for the System 573, which was built on PS1 hardware. Even though it's a PS2 disc, it's really just a PS1 game in disguise. Next game on the list is Guitar Freak's fourth mix. You might have noticed that I'm skipping over the Drum Mania halves of these games, and that's not because I don't want to try them, I just don't have the equipment to try them. It's not really like you're missing much though, it's the exact same thing with more notes. This game, for the most part, is the exact same as the last game. The graphics have seen a very, very, very tiny upgrade, and the set list has a lot more genre variation, but otherwise it's the exact same down to the control scheme issue. The reason the limited controls sucks so much is because you can only map one button to picking at a time. Trying to map the strum bar to the right analog stick creates such a tremendous amount of input delay that it makes it impossible to use. So you can really only map one direction on the strum bar between these two games. I mean, I was smacking my head down a lot, missing a lot of notes during long tremolos, and my hands naturally wanted to strum up and down instead of just down, and I'm pretty sure like I left a huge dent in my thumb, but otherwise it was pretty good. It's whatever. The devs never really expected a player to be in a situation like this one, so it's a personal inconvenience. It's not a flaw with the game that my controls are fucked up because I'm emulating the game. I can move on without really saying much about this one because, like I said, it's the exact same game. But things do change quite drastically after this, so I think I can clump third and fourth mix together into the same rating. Honestly, these games get an easy 6 out of 10. The set lists are mid, the gameplay is good, and probably functions very well if you have the right hardware, and the differences in difficulty balancing make it feel like a fresh break away from the guitar games that I'm used to. It's just so damn ugly. All of it. You can tell just by looking at it that this game was meant for PS1, but this is a PS2 release. They couldn't decompress the files just a little bit for home console, give the sprites a higher resolution, something. At least it wasn't a bad experience. Next game on the list is Guitar Freak's V. Like I said earlier, this is the last one of the series to have the limited control scheme options, but honestly, it doesn't even matter. Visually speaking, this entry is miles ahead of the last one. The notes look so much cleaner, and everything is a lot easier on the eyes. To boot, the center panel's now a lot more active during songs, and the compression isn't nearly as bad as it was before. The setlist also now features a lot more from the music that Japan has to offer, rather than a heavily American, Canadian, English setlist with some music from Japan mixed in. It's still not my favorite, but it's a lot better than the last one. Something I can't get over is all of the industrial menu art. Straight up, feels like Team Silent designed this artwork. It's so out of place with every other game in the series. I don't hate it, I just think it's really weird. Overall, game is a 7 out of 10. It's better. It's way better. It's not great yet, but it's way better. Next up is Guitar Freak's V2. It's at this point in the series where we move up from B tier to S tier. Fully customizable controls. The single greatest creature comfort for anybody emulating a game like this. I can now take full advantage of my strum bar and the button layout to get a much closer to accurate experience. That's awesome, because this game has one of the best set lists, some of the best visuals, and really I think it's probably the best in its whole series on this console. New to this game is the ability to choose a character when starting robbing the arcade. None of them match in art style, and this one is particularly creepy as fuck, so you know I'm picking Creepy Ghost Girl as my main. After beating the arcade, you'll get a few screens with stats and information about how well you played and your final score and all that shit and whatever, and then you're met with this really weird roulette minigame that'll give you more score, or something. I don't know, I can't really read the Japanese on screen. I try, but I am Japanese illiterate, so. Everything I've played through up until this point is all more worth it because I eventually got here. This game is amazing, and I'm a little bit sad that I didn't play it sooner. I like the music. I like how tight and refined the gameplay is. I like the ability to make the controls whatever I want them to be. Bamani knocked this one way out of the park. It isn't perfect, and it isn't the best guitar game I've ever played, but it's so damn good. Easily deserves a 9 out of 10. If you don't believe me, I recommend giving it a shot. Go play it for yourself and draw your own conclusion. I can't promise that you'll like it as much as I do, but I can promise that what you see is what you get. I just think it's damn fun. Next on the list is Guitar Freaks V3. This game is fundamentally the same as the last one. There aren't too many major differences that shift the experience in any one direction. It's just more of what already works with a different set list. I don't like the set list as much as the last one, but I like it a hell of a lot more than the first three. They've kept the theme of spotlighting Japanese artists from a myriad of different genres with some foreign music mixed in throughout. That means a lot of exposure to music that I've never heard before, which is always a dub. Since I don't have much to say about the game, I want to talk about how this series handles difficulty. In the settings menu, you'll find a slider to increase the difficulty of the actual gameplay. Turning the slider up completely makes it much harder to recover if you lose life gauge, and it also tightens the hit detection window, meaning you need to be much more precise about your inputs. The next difficulty setting introduced in V carries on throughout the rest of them. When selecting a song, you can choose between beginner, advanced, and extreme chart difficulties. This is a lot closer to how Guitar Hero handles things. The harder the difficulty, the more notes there are in the chart. For the closest accuracy between the chart and the song, you'll want to play on extreme, but just know that playing on extreme max level guitar is not a challenge for the weak-willed or be easily frustrated. It's comparatively harder than some of Guitar Hero's more difficult charts. You'll probably smack your head against the wall a few times, wishing for some hammer-ons and pull-offs to show up when they never do. All in all, I think I can give Guitar Freaks V3 a rating of 8 out of 10. It's definitely worth it, and I feel like with a game like this, when you have something that isn't broken, not fixing it is the best way to go about it. We're almost to the end. Next on the list is Guitar Freaks Masterpiece Silver. This game, as well as its sequel Masterpiece Gold, are an excuse to release charts for a number of songs that never got home console releases. Many of them come from the System 573 era, so this isn't just a re-release for them. This is an extreme upgrade from the lackluster primitives that they come from. The set listing quality is about the same as last time, but one major difference is the difficulty. This game has probably the most difficult selection of songs from the entire PS2 series. Some of them are insane, even on the easy chart. I wouldn't even conceive trying to finish some of these on extreme max guitar level. It just sounds like a Herculean effort. That said, I appreciate that these games never decline in quality or difficulty. From V2 forward, it's all incredibly consistent and fun to play. Not much left to say, really. I think this game deserves the same as the last one, an 8 out of 10. It's not hard for me to love these games, not only for what they do, but also for the many things that the series has inspired and pioneered. I know it probably doesn't have the same impact now, and it never had an impact over here in America, but that doesn't mean it isn't still great. These games follow a strict if it ain't broke don't fix it mentality that works out in their favor and keeps them timeless. Last one, and I'm glad because this has been a lot to talk about. Guitar Freaks Masterpiece Gold. This game is a step backward in difficulty for sure, but the setlist itself is more fun to listen to, so that compromise has been well balanced. Pretty much everything stays the same, no surprise there. Game still feels, looks, and plays the same, and it's all good. I'm especially glad that I don't have much to say about it because a drastic change by this point really wouldn't make much sense. It's comfortable now. I can swap between them and get whatever experience I want from whatever setlist I want. This is just more music for the same idea, and to me that's perfectly fine. Instead of wasting more time, we'll just give it an easy rating of 8 out of 10. At the end of everything, I can summarize this experience as familiar but new, comfortable but challenging, exactly what I wanted but more than I expected. Konami might not have the greatest reputation in the world these days, but this is a good look back to a time when they were on top of everybody. I'm not gonna bullshit and say that I would have appreciated these games as a kid because I probably wouldn't have. I started playing Guitar Hero from a young age, and anything too different than that would have put me off. So I'm glad that I did this as an adult, where I can walk into it with a rational, critical mind and give it the respect that it deserves. Like I said earlier, if any of these games interest you, I personally recommend any of the games from V2 upward. V2's definitely the best in my opinion, but that's subjective for sure. Overall, this was a very interesting and satisfying experience, and now walking away from it, I can cross 7 more games off of my list. That's huge. That's a massive chunk of games just out of the way now. Thank you, and have a nice day.